Hello everyone and welcome back to another hypoallergenic episode of the Center Beacon. This weekend we're talking about test server again, test server 2.0.0. Pretty excited about this one. As you can see on the screen here, new heavy weapon. So they've tweaked it, and I'll talk about it once we get into the video. New Destrier and Fury models. I'm not sure why they keep doing this. In my opinion, it's unnecessary, but we're going to cover that as well. And the revised targeting system. The slider is back. And finally, they kind of failed to mention it here, so I added it in for them. Spawn on beacons. What does this mean? It means if your team controls a beacon, if you've turned something blue, you can then select it when you choose your next robot and spawn on it. Personally, I'm not so sure about this one. And from what I'm hearing from my buddies who've already played, this could be a big game changer. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that as well. Let's go ahead and let's pick some bots. Just going to kind of go through and set up, the Destrier here is going to be obligatory. I want people to be able to see it. Again, I know not everybody's on test server. I know, not everybody has time. So that's kind of like the whole point behind these videos is I like to try to get these up here. Not always the first, but I try to get them up here so you guys can get just like a recap, just like you would go to your favorite sports network and you didn't have time to watch the games, but you want to get the highlights. Well, here it is. Destrier, not a big fan of it. Fairly useless robot, almost at all levels of play. Yes, it is the poor man's stalker. You can use it effectively with magnums. I've seen it before. But here's the new model. I'm not a fan. I don't understand why they're doing this and what makes it so much different from the last model. Honestly, it kind of looks like it has eyelashes now. I'm not really sure what's going on. Some people like it. I don't care for it, and I don't feel like the old bots need to be physically redesigned. I think we have more important things to focus on in terms of gameplay issues, and really I think they're going to need all hands on deck for this upcoming matchmaking redesign, because who knows where that's going to take us. So this is kind of like, my secret crush on this bot. I don't own it yet. I really like this thing, so I'm going to put him in again, the Galahad. And I'll talk about some aspects of this robot when we get him in gameplay. But I mean, look at this thing. I mean, I am a sucker for these Punishers. So I am super excited that they have increased the damage against physical shields and the rate of fire. And from what I tested and from what I'm hearing from some of my friends, they're effective. They are going to alter things somewhat when it comes to gameplay, where previously things like the Rhino that carry their own cover with them were kind of dominating the battlefield. So I'm excited to see how this plays out on live. On test server, it's really giving you options. I'm curious to see how they execute things on live. So here we're going to grab a Fury real quick. This is the redesigned model. Check in to see if they've written anything into the description about this new prototype weapon. They haven't. You can see it's the same standard image as the Trident. No new art for it yet, I should say. So we're going to go ahead and throw 3 of these bad boys on here. I can't tell if they took my advice and scaled this weapon up or not. They may not have even touched the physical model yet. Probably still tweaking balance. They did rebalance this weapon, and we're going to talk about it when we get into the gameplay. Not crazy about how they tweaked it. But, you can see here physically, I think the model's probably the same, but I was hoping they would make it a little bit bigger so it scales a little bit nicer with the larger bots like the Fury. So then we are going to dial up what I think is maybe the 4th bot here. I'm picking the Leo because with the new heavy and 3 Malots on this thing, it's really nice. And if you are on test server and you haven't given this combo a try, I recommend it. It's a lot of fun. The Leo, I think he has like the most hit points, or maybe the second most after that raging crab looking thing that I don't care for, but that's another video. I think this guy has the second most hit points, and he's very maneuverable and quick now relative for a big bot, with the speed increase that they implemented, whatever that was the other month. I'm really liking the new heavy with the Malots. You can really reach out. You can really make some kind of intermediate range guys duck for cover. And the Leo gives you great mobility and survivability. So for the final bot here, we're going to move over and grab another Fury just so I can test these heavy weapons, because unlike some of the players you'll see that I encounter, we're actually going to test the new stuff to try to provide feedback that's going to help us all in the long run, and not necessarily kind of run with all of like the Gucci equipment that, guys just kind of want to see, like, ooh, what's it like? Because I don't have it yet. But if we didn't have those guys, then we wouldn't have things that we're going to encounter later on to test against. So I suppose it all works out in the end. I'm going to load this guy up real quick. Almost thought about doing Tridents, but then the adult in me took over because I am building a Trident Fury currently on live, but the Tridents are way low level. They're like 9.65, something like that. So ineffective. I don't plan on really trying to field the thing until they're all like 10 at least. Because once those things hit 12s, I'm sure you guys are seeing, everybody and their mother has like 2 of these maxed Fury Tridents. Okay, so here real quick on the intro, you can kind of see the A, B, C, D, E beacon tabs. And we're going to talk more about those when you see me actually use them. Unfortunately, because I'm kind of a caveman, I didn't really pick up on it initially when I shot this video that you can click the tabs and choose your spawn beacon. But like any good caveman, I learned quickly from my mistakes, and we move on rather quickly from that. So here I'm trying to get rid of the somewhat annoying here's how to drive your robot like on-screen tutorial thing. So I'm going to get rid of this in a second as I capture the first beacon here with this Galahad, which I love. This thing, you got to really drive it to kind of understand how nimble this thing is. You can see I just got a text from my buddy there that I forgot to edit out. So hopefully he didn't say anything inappropriate. But this thing's really nimble, really fast. And you can see here a quad Gek patent is a bad idea against this guy with a physical shield. I eat a face full of aphids there, but that's okay too, because as you can see, shields are great at catching rockets, aphids, spirals, what have you, right on the edge of the shield. So if you've got a rhino, if you've got something with a physical shield, flip that bad boy up and it will catch most of the incoming for you. The aiming sensitivity is a little squirrely here because they put the slider, if you guys saw a couple test server videos ago, they put the slider back in and I didn't tweak it yet. So it's a little squirrely, a little quicker than I like, but you can dial it down or up according to your preference. So I really love the Punisher setup here. You got to remember on this bot, what's so great about this guy is he's got the shield. You can fire with the shield up. Okay, so this guy's going to put another salvo into me, but you can see the shield eats a lot of it. He actually breaks my shield off, but whereas I would have been downed, I'm still alive. But you got to remember, like a Rhino or a Griffin here, you have 3/4 of the firepower of one of those heavy bots on a medium chassis that's really quick and has a shield. Okay, so here I'm running for my life because I'm eating some splash. The annoying laser guy is still on the ramp, like shooting me. And then I'm going to eat the death button here, but I'm going to freeze it real quick because I want to show you these tabs. You can see 2 are controlled by red, 3 are controlled by blue. It's really cool because you'll see it here in a second. When you click on those, you're actually going to get a camera view of that beacon and the situation there. It's really neat. So here I'm going to dial down the sensitivity on the aiming just a smidge because I'm older and my reflexes aren't maybe what they used to be. Actually, you know what? I'm going to edit that part out later because that's not true. I'm as fast as I ever was. Faster even. So I dial the sensitivity down a little bit more to what I like. It's a little bit closer to what it is on live now. Halfway is a little bit more like crazy speed for me, but it seems to be that's going to be their default setting. So here we are in the Destrier with the Punishers. You can see the way that the weapons equip now. They're really closely tucked in. This thing is not very sexy. The weapons kind of look like this guy is, he's got his elbows tucked in close to his sides like he's afraid to like talk to a girl or something. Not a big fan of the way this physically looks, but as you can see, the Punishers are effective. I mean, I finished off a guy there. I'm putting some hate on that guy, and then I see this guy flanking, And he kind of peeks out, grabs the beacon. I maybe get a couple of rounds on him. And just going to go into a little duel with this guy. As we get closer, I think you can see that this is a Lancelot. Not exactly a good choice for a one-on-one contest with a Destrier, but you can kind of see the power of these Punishers, and same is true for the Molots. Increased physical damage to shields, and that firing rate ramps up after 3 seconds. Now, this guy puts me down, but I virtually destroy this guy and what was left of my Destrier. And then you can see there again, I'm not picking up on the fact that I can spawn. Granted, we only control one beacon, so you don't really have any options. But you can see when you get it that you can choose where you want to spawn. However, with only one controlled beacon, kind of limits your options. So you can see we launched another triple prototype heavy weapon, Fury. The weapon I kind of have dubbed the Reaper, or at least as of last test center. It's not reaping so much this time, because if you notice when it's firing, it actually has a reduced rate of fire. And they've included the same mechanic for the Molots and Punishers, where the speed kind of ramps up after 3 seconds. I'm not a fan of this. I did not care for it. I am going to recommend that they return it back to the way it was on the previous test center version, because they're going to be expensive, and you need 3 of them to really kind of get to that point where it's like the Trident or maybe a one-shot Trebuchet. You can kind of see there when I finally did remember to spawn on a beacon that we controlled other than our own start beacon, it spawned me in backwards. So not the best idea with your rear end facing the enemy. That little, I think that was like a Galahad or something, pretty much ate me up by the time I turned around. And here's a contest you're probably always going to lose. Lancelot, point blank range, maxed thunder, and some Orkans. So not a good one to go up against with a 800 meter long range weapon with a now reduced rate of fire. So in my opinion, I liked the Reaper, the new prototype heavy weapon, just the way it was on the original test server. Now I can imagine that they probably received a ton of feedback that probably, strongly indicated that the weapon was overpowered, which is normally the way things go with people on the internet when something new comes out, and it's going to affect the way that they currently play. I personally really liked the way that this thing started out a couple weeks ago on Test Center, because I found it a really effective natural counter to all the Tridents, the Trebuchet guys, RDB Griffins, the kind of intermediate range guys that were constantly chewing you up, and there wasn't a lot you could do about it, unless you flanked them and kind of like snuck up on them and got up close, or, fought fire with fire type thing and used tridents or similar loadouts yourself. I really kind of like the different game balance that these Reapers will bring to the game, but not so much with the reduced firing rate. Not as effective, possibly not as worth it to buy 3 of these things in addition to everything else that I'm sure you guys are probably saving for upgrading, especially because right now everything's so expensive. So, not a great first game. We're going to drop in on a new one. Canyon, I really like this map. I'm going to try to be sneaky squirrel up here and use some of this cover. This is not my play style, so I am not real good at kind of hanging back and just dealing damage from afar type thing. Unfortunately, this Fury robot is so dang big that, I'm thinking like, okay, I'll just, in my mind, just the heavy weapons are poking out above like whatever this little building thing is. But of course, basically what I've done is, made it so my knees are bulletproof, which isn't real helpful here. So I'm eating the Zeus, I'm eating the lasers, somebody's running a laser Leo or something over there. Ate quite a bit of that, but then they kind of get distracted by other things, and I'm finally able to get going with these things. You can see how slow the rate of fire is now, whereas if you dial up my video from whatever it was the other week, test server 1.9.1, compare the two, and the rate of fire is much, much higher on the original version of this weapon. So what I'm hoping is that everyone will kind of see this and realize that, like, I don't know what they're going to charge for this thing. I recommended workshop points, since we all kind of got burnt on the BritBots being gold when we were all banking workshop points. So I know guys have a surplus of those, so it would be kind of nice if they came out with something that cost workshop points. But if either way you go, it's going to be probably a fairly large expenditure of resources, especially to put 3 of these things on top of a robot you already paid a pretty penny for. So I want them to be effective, especially as a set of triplets. They need to be effective, and that rate of fire just for my money isn't getting it done. It's not making me want to go away from the Trident Fury. So we got the Leo here, and like I said, this is a really nice setup. I like the quickness of the Leo. The 3 Malots, do not underestimate these things. If they leave these things like they are, the 3 Malots are really something. You can see the rate of fire they have and how much damage they put out. The magazine is not that significant. You will go to a reload quickly like you see right there, but they are effective and they are accurate pretty much right out to 800 meters, which I believe has always been the Malot's max range, max effective, however you want to think about it. So you can see, again, from a not too far from the spawn, I'm chewing up guys that are usually probably going to be able to get across the map on you and maybe seek that cover. For whatever reason, that guy kind of just stops and holds up right there. But you can see the effectiveness of these ballistic weapons, even against the energy shields. They had their damage ramped up. Hey, thanks. They had their damage ramped up for the physical shields, but they really do a heck of a job on the energy shields as well. Again, and then as like a finisher right here, I'm just gonna put some on that guy. I just happen to see targets of opportunity, and in close or at max range, these are effective. And you're gonna see here in a second. I can't imagine this thing with Punishers. I haven't run that combo yet. I hear it's really nice on test server, but you're going to see here in a second where I'm going to go toe-to-toe with the Rhino with his shield up, and it's pretty interesting and not what you would expect under current live circumstances. So you have my least favorite bot there, the Ragin with the double thunders. He drops off of like the center platform there. I put a little bit of hate down on him, but he's got that dang shield. And if you ever notice, the Ragin turns very quickly with the shield up to address like emerging threats. Now, fortunately here for me, he gets kind of distracted, and I'm able to flank him here and eat him up from the side, and somebody else kind of gets the kill on him. But you can see the range on this thing, Here comes the Rhino, okay? So I can kind of everyone is within range. Now, this guy, fortunately, is a very bad shot. He completely misses me with the bulk of his salvo there, and I just eat this guy up. Now, granted, he's taking a little bit of fire there. My buddy's helping me out, but I absolutely annihilate this guy at, whatever that was, 150, 200 meters range with something that's meant for 800 meters. You're talking like cross-map range, at least on a small map like this. Again, another real nice soft target. You got a little Rogatka here with the Terrans. Somebody's maybe being a little nostalgic here. And this thing, you just sink your teeth into something like this. That Rogatka has no protection. Just that jump every, whatever it is, 8 or 10 seconds. And I'm able to chew him up pretty good. Now, what's interesting here is you can see my Malots are on a reload, but the heavy weapon is still kind of cranking. I did like the offset, and I don't know if it's because they changed the rate of fire on the new prototype heavy weapon, but during the downtime for the Malots, your heavy weapon actually still has a few rounds in the magazine, and it actually provides a nice bit of overlap. So you could see with that guy, I was able to finish him off with what was left in the heavy while my Malots are reloading. And then once all these bad boys are back up and rocking, it's still a really effective combo, even with the reduced rate of fire. But I am not a fan of less, go figure. I like more. I like more for my money and more bang for my buck, and I want them to put this thing's rate of fire back the way it was, or at least split the difference with me. Now you can see here, I think this guy's name was Te Matare or something like that. That's the Rhino that I went toe-to-toe with earlier. His name literally translates to "I'll kill you." So not in that first instance, because I'm pretty sure I smoked him, but he gets his revenge by spawning in a brand new Fury with what looked like a couple of heavy weapons up, heavy prototype weapons up top and something else. But I always like to point out those really interesting kind of nicknames that you just don't seem like a nice person with a name like that. So here again, we're running this Galahad, a lot of firepower. You can see I get told I'll kill you again there. It's really nice with this thing with the shield up and 3/4 of a Rhino or a Griffin firepower on this thing. It's nasty. And I've not even really run it with rockets yet. I've been focusing on the testing for the new ballistics of the kinetic weapons, and it's nasty. And you can see this this Griff jumps into me here. Now I ate some rockets in the face. The shield is up, doesn't really matter. But you can see he starts to take like a fair amount of damage. Another loss, so pretty much batting 0 here for test server. But I'm not really trying to win. I'm trying to see, what's going on with this new stuff, because I feel like at least a couple of us need to pay attention to this and provide some good, solid feedback the old-fashioned way by writing it. Otherwise, we could kind of get screwed with some of this stuff. If we don't let them hear our voices on, hey, we're the players, we're the customers, this is what we want, who knows what they'll do. So I would strongly urge you guys, if you're on test server, provide feedback. And even if you're not, use the report form in game, and just or you can go to their fact site, and they have a like a request submission form, and it's like game suggestion. You choose that, fill in your idea, let them hear it, because if we don't, there's no telling what they're going to do. And some of their ideas are really good, and others I'm just kind of like, what are you guys doing? Like, that is not what we want to be doing right now. Kind of like you saw there a second ago, they're redesigning all these old robots, and I personally think it's a huge waste of time and resources. I understand they have separate departments that work on all this stuff, but not really where I want to see the money going if I was running their show. So if you get the chance, submit some feedback, let these guys hear from you, because honestly, to their credit, they are fairly receptive to it. So I just kind of wanted to double tap this spawn on beacons concept. I'm not a big fan of this right now. I think what you're going to see is a lot of situations like on Yamantau, the team that gets to the center beacon first is going to have a huge advantage in holding it, because their buddies are going to be able to spawn all over it. So you can see stalkers dumping their robot as soon as they capture the beacon to bring in the death button, to just kind of like lock it down. And I don't really see that as a very sporting way of playing the game. Especially, I don't know why this is necessary given the fact that they just boosted the speed of almost every medium and heavy robot in the game. But we're going to explore it further in upcoming videos. Thank you for liking and subscribing as always, and I will see you next time at the Center Beacon.